So it's simple. It doesn't matter if the market's bad or good. We consistently do well because we make it simple. And just like for my listeners on the radio or on the internet or my podcast, we make it simple. We try to break it down so you really understand why the market is going up or why there's continued inflation or why the bank rates are going up. So you understand, especially yields. The most important thing to understand how yields work. Just what we do. We work hard at it.
Trusted advice, easy to understand strategies that will make you a better investor. Get all the details at philsgang.com. That's philsgang.com.
Whoa.
It's your daily dose of how to manage your money. And now it's time for Phil's Gang on the Off the Wall Street Network.
Oh, God. Are you nuts?
With your host, Phil Grande.
What is coming to me?
And welcome. Well, we always hear how wonderful the consumer is doing, right? He's in good shape. And that's all we hear every day. Consumers are really, they're doing well. Not to worry that they're making a good living, or the prices are coming down, inflation's coming down. But none of that is true. And our reports show us that. We're not being told the truth. So, for example, let's take what they're not telling us. Okay, let's go over that. Do you know why homeowners won't sell and why the real estate market is in such a mess? Because 78% hold mortgage rates at 5%. 55% hold mortgage rates below 4%. And 23% of people who have a mortgage hold mortgage rates of 3% or less. That is really destroying the housing market. There's no inventory. Who would sell their house? And did you know that mortgage application rejections are up 23%? Well, if that's true, how can they keep telling us how strong the economy is and how strong that the consumer is? They're doing terrific, we're told. Well, if that's the case, then why is the mortgage application rejections are up a historic 23%? Now, if things were so great and the consumer's so wonderful and he's in good shape, he should be able to refi his house, right? Makes sense. But do you know refi rejections? You go to refi your house today, good luck, up 46%. 46%. What are you, nuts? Auto financing rejections up 15%. Credit card application, which they give to anybody can have a credit card, is up 21%. See, the banks are really getting scared. Matter of fact, they had to go borrow another, I think, $30 trillion this week, or $30 billion this week, out of the repo, because they're starving for cash. Remember what the repo is. Remember our 2008 crash occurred because we didn't have a repo for banks to go to borrow money. That's why we had the crash. By doing this repo system, they get the big institutions all to pitch in to a bunch of money to save the banks. Well, the banks are in deep, deep trouble. Now, we're also told, that the biggest tech companies have expanded their debt by 400% in 90 days. Meta, $30 billion. Google, $25 billion. Oracle, $18 billion. Amazon, $15 billion. Remember, these companies never borrowed money. They're cash cows, right? Now they're borrowing to support their data centers and to build them out. And they're having trouble because, remember, there's a big rotation out of these tech stocks now because the big institutional investors had it. They're saying, hey, the hype is bigger than my returns on these data centers. Oracle was the big deal, remember? When they made a deal with OpenAI, their stock shot up 25% that day, gave it all back. So they're rotating out of these stocks, but nobody's talking about it. Increased money supply. Here they go again. They're starting to increase the money supply. 80% of all the new dollars printed were over the past 5 years. Without that, this market would have never be where it is today. Never. We would have gone into a depression, for God's sakes. Printing all that money. That's why we've got so much inflation. And they can't get the inflation down. Look, they tried to get to 2%. And that's another problem. They couldn't get to 2%. It's at 3%. So now, remember, yesterday they stopped with QT. They're going to go right back to QE. Now, they're going to tell us that. They're going to deny it, but it'll be QT under a different name. And that's going to be terrible. The last thing we need right now is more inflation. More inflation. And we're going to get it. See, they never can control inflation. They'll never control it because they'll never control the budget because they've always rigged the budget. They always rigged the budget, so always to expand the size of government. They have always done that. I don't care if it's a Republican or Democrats. Their whole goal has always been, let's keep expanding the size of government. So I can take money home, and I can build ice skating rinks. I can build new hospitals, or take an airport that only has 100 people go through that airport a day, and they're going to expand it to take care of 7,000 people a day. You wouldn't believe the amount of airport expansions these congressmen have done in their states, where they spent billions of dollars on these airports that would be justified if you had 7,000, 14,000 people going through a day, but you got airports that size with 24 people going through a day. That's right, in some of these small areas. So the whole idea of these budgets and that we're going to try to cut is a bunch of BS. So again, when you keep saying how great the economy is doing, I just went through the numbers with you. And how great the consumer is, all a bunch of BS. So what really tells you the weakness is the rejections in mortgage applications, 23%. The refis you got automatically, didn't matter who you were. 46% the rejections are up. That's horrible. That's really bad. And credit card application. Anybody can get a credit card? Nope, no more. Rejections up 21%. So again, it's everything they're telling us, okay, that how everything is just doing well, that is not true. If it was true, then why, if the consumer is doing so well, why are bankruptcies the highest in 15 years? What are you, nuts? And the problem is the consumer, the inflation in 5 years have gone up 22%. But his wages haven't gone up 22%. So we have some very serious problems if you don't know how to sell stock short. And that's the whole point. If you know how to sell stock short, you have no problem. You're going to make a lot of money, because this thing is setting itself up for a crash. Now, it's not going to, I told my members some time ago that we're not going to have a crash in 2026. It's not going to happen. They're going to do everything to make sure it doesn't. But at some point, okay, it's going to happen. You can't stop it. You can't stop it. And again, the budget deficits are the problem. They won't cut. And this year's budget deficit is already past the $1 trillion mark by August. See, the budget deficit has been rigged to surpass $2 trillion within the decade. And over the next year, 30 years, to surpass 80 trillion in new renting. They've been rigged to do that. Now, of course, that means as long as we don't have wars or stagflation or recession, Social Security and Medicare, they have huge shortfalls, but they lie to us. Oh, no, they don't. We're going to be fine. Well, remember, Social Security and Medicare shortfalls drive our deficits. Deficit spending, I mean, Congress spending, the deficit is, I'm talking about just the deficit. They're spending 130% more than their income. 130% more than their income, and that's why we have these deficits. All this deficit spending. So the Social Security and Medicare shortfalls are a real problem. Now, they told us, and they've said, the payroll taxes and Medicare premiums will more than fund these programs. It was a lie. Not gonna. They can't. No way. It's a lie, and they knew damn well it was a lie when they told us that Social Security and Medicare shortfalls. Okay, and the drive these deficits. Oh, don't worry about payroll taxes. We'll take care of this. Not a problem. They knew when they said that it wasn't true.
5 minutes.
So, I mean, it would be impossible for the income of our payroll tax and Medicare payments, it could never support 74 million people who are starting to retire now. How are you ever going to support that 74 million? Oh, they tell us they're going to, though. They got enough income from Social Security and Medicare. No, they don't. They don't. They lie. And they knew damn well they're lying. Especially when the general tax revenues. I mean, the general tax rate have no way that can they cover 103 trillion over the next 30 years. So the biggest problem we're having and why everybody keeps talking about what's going on with inflation. I mean, that's all they talk about. It's all you hear. Inflation. We're going to do this to keep it down. Going to keep it down. No, they're not. They never intended to keep any of this down. No, never. The reason why we have inflation, why it's always there, why they're always talking about it, why it's always high, why they can't get back to their 2%, because they lie. Because they rig the budget process so they can get reelected, so they can bring the bacon home, build a bridge to nowhere, build a road to nowhere, build dams where there's no water. It's all about getting reelected.
3 minutes.
So someone's going to have to seriously look at the 74 million people who are coming on Social Security. How the hell are we going to pay that? We can't. It's impossible. But all they care about is getting reelected. That's the problem. That's it. That's it. They never fix anything. And when you have mortgage application rejections, are you kidding? I mean, 23%, but worse. Everybody goes out and refis their home, their mortgage. You can't today, up 46%. That money's shut off. Everybody's using their credit card. Don't think I'll just go get another credit card to pay my other credit card. That's gone too. They shut all that off. And when you see the biggest companies, Meta, borrowing, I mean, think about it. Just 4 companies expanded their debt by 400% in 90 days. It's failing. Why do you think there's a rotation out of these stocks? And here's the problem. They're rotating into banks when banks are hiding a $500 billion losses in commercial loans, which are all going to hit this year. But guess what? What do you do as a trader? What do you do as an investor? Don't sweat it. It doesn't matter to us. Why? If you know how to buy stocks, but more important, how to sell stocks short. If you're in a 401k, you are screwed because you are not going to be able to make up that. You're going to lose money. There's just no way you're not going to lose because they don't allow in a 401k to sell short. When you had a pension, the guy handling your pension, he would short when the market's going to go down 60%. You'd be fine because in the pension he could short it.
1 minute.
But the thing with the 401k, you're not allowed to short. When they rig that deal, you can't short. So and then they're telling everybody, and it made me sick in the last week here, they're telling her, buy in a dip, buy in a dip. With stocks going down, you're going to cost average down. With a stock trending down, you're going to buy on the dip. You never do that. You get into a worse position. But they do that on purpose. Because first of all, they're shorting you, making money. So anytime your stock is going down and is a defined trend going down, and they tell you go ahead and cost average down, you're out of your mind. Never do that.
30 seconds.
Or buy on a dip as your stock. If your stock's going from 100 down to 50 and they tell you buy on a dip, cost average down, there should be a law to send that person to jail. The only time you buy on dips is when your trend is going up. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And there's a technique to do that.
5.
I mean, this is insane what's going on. But it's not going to affect us if you know how to do shorts and long. Then you're going to be just fine. Be right back.
Want more information on this show? Go to philsgang.com or give them a call at 877-600-GANG.
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we're fighting against childhood cancer every day. At the heart of this battle are our donors.
Most of us want to make some type of difference in the lives of others. St. Jude does miraculous work.
The fact that no one has to pay, it's a place where everyone is treated as an equal.
Everybody is welcome here, and it doesn't matter your religion or what part of the world you're from, all that is taken away. It just gives you some hope.
It's just a nice feeling to put your energy into something that really does genuinely make a difference in a child's life.
There's just no greater gift. If we have the ability to help, then we have a responsibility to help.
Finding cures, saving children. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Find out how you can help at stjude.org.
When the stock market is volatile, how do you invest intelligently?
Hi, I'm Phil Grande at philsgang.com. There's no need for you to be panicking in a market that goes up 800 points one day, 700 points, then it goes down again. All you need is good advice, need good direction. You don't get that from your CNBC and the Fox business and all these crazy shows. You don't. Here's what you get from them. Thank you, Jim Cramer. But this is something that this really bugs me. Listen to this.
Our responsibility begins and ends with our partners and our shareholders, and that's it.
What? Their responsibility is to their partners and shareholders and not to you? Check my site out, philsgang.com.
When the stock market is up one day and down the next, you need the experience of Phil Grande at philsgang.com.
What a difference it makes in your financial life. philsgang.com. It works.
Welcome back. Learn, invest, and make profits with Phil Grande. Simply go to philsgang.com. Now, here's Phil.
And welcome back. You know, all those stats that I gave you is a gold mine. That's right. You shouldn't look at it and say, oh my God, if he's right, you know, we're in trouble, right? I mean, with mortgage applications, the rejection is up 23%, refi is up 46%, auto financing rejects up 15%, credit card application reject up 21%, and bankruptcies are up a historic high. Then why is it they keep lying to us? Listen to this.
Retail sales at Johnson Redbook up 6%. I do not think the consumer is in dire straits by any means. The confidence numbers will have you believe that, but I don't.
Well, I don't. She don't believe it. These are the jibber jabbers that are on TV that you can't listen to or you will go broke. Consumer sentiment is at a record low. Are you nuts? 53.6. It just dropped again to 51%. Consumer confidence dropped 5%. That's the lowest since 2024. So what's she talking about? She's lying. That's what they do. Over the past 10 years, the top 1% wealth increased by 42 trillion. Her and Pelosi in the top 1%. But the average guy on Main Street who makes $65,000 to $75,000 a year, have a couple kids, his net worth went up $335 because you don't make money in the stock market. Oh, sure, when they're rigging the market to go up and they're increasing the money supply and you got 5, 6 stocks holding up the whole market, sure. But at the end of the day, you always give it back. Because at the end of the day, you will never get out of your 401k in time. At the end of the day, you can't short your 401k. But you can protect that 401k by shorting. We'll show you how to do it here at Phil's Gang. But listen to this. Over the past 10 years, as I said, the top 1% is creating magnificent wealth, 42, mostly from the stock market. Now, she says she don't believe the consumer is in rough shape. And I can play 10 to 15 cuts of these jibber jabbers on these financial shows, and they'll all say the same thing. In spite of the fact that they know people living from paycheck to paycheck has increased from 46% to 68% in less than 24 months. Let me repeat. Those who work paycheck to paycheck increased from 46% to 68% in the last, or less than 24 months. But what is she going to peddle?
Retail sales at Johnson Redbook up 6%. I do not think the consumer is in dire straits by any means. The confidence numbers will have you believe that, but I don't.
Here's where the lie is. Did you hear her say the sales numbers are up 3%? That doesn't tell you anything, because that is the store keep raising their prices because the wholesalers are raising the price to them. They have to raise the price to the consumer. So when they look at their books, the BLS was more crooked than a corkscrew, and let's say what's up 6% is not is the pricing, not sales. So they look at someone's book, and they did $5 million in sales. The next month, they're doing, let's say they're doing 10% more. But that's because prices went up. If you look at the units, and when you go look at the units are dropping. The amount of things that are being sold, the number of units, that's what you got to look at, are falling like a flying monkey. But she is so crooked, this woman, it's unbelievable. How can it be true they're in good shape when the consumer inflation from 2020 to 2025 has gone up 22.4%? That's insane. Just crazy. Jobs, the total workforce, 170 million. Part-time, okay, is 290,000. And all this AI, there's 17 million. Our total workforce jobs is 170 million. AI is 17 million. That's what they're focusing on, is AI. If things were doing so well, why do we have a historic number of 8 million who have multiple jobs? We never had that before. Never had that before. Job cuts between October 2024 and October 2025 have multiplied 3 times. 3 times. Job cuts increased 3 times in 12 months. Just look at Jolt. Job openings since 2022 to 2025 dropped from 10.7 million to 7.4 million. But what does she say when she opens her mouth?
Retail sales at Johnson Redbook up 6%.
I don't even want to replay it. She makes me sick to my stomach. So you take, and here's the other problem is, the biggest employers in our country is auto and real estate industry. 10 million jobs are in the auto industry and 3 million jobs are in the real estate industry. Now, remember, we have, 170 million people in our workforce. So out of 170 million, there's only 10 million in the auto industry and 3 million in real estate. Everybody else depends on the small business, but the small business is getting screwed. The small business is getting screwed because remember, before Trump got back into office here in January, the regulations that were by the Biden administration on small businesses were terrible. They were crucifying small businesses because they hate small businesses because it's democracy. Okay, that's not what they want, right? So they keep on putting on new regulation. Well, at least thank God we're getting these regulations cut back as fast as we can. So again, when you look at inflation and look at wages, okay, if wages in the last 5 years went up 5%, but what about the auto price, your automobile, your car? In 5 years, the price of a car went up 38%. Your wages went up 5%. The cost of a home in the last 5 years went up 45%. Your wages went up 5%. So what the hell is she talking about? She's lying. Never listen to these people. These jibber jabbers. It's insane. Inflation. Obamacare is killing everybody. Remember that? You have to pass it to see what's in it. Are you kidding? 114% increase. Auto insurance up 64%. Rents up 26%. These are new numbers. Electricity is still up big, over 28, 30%. And home prices, record increases of 290% just between 2010 and 2025. And just in between 2020 and 290%. 290%. All right, so again, the biggest problem for the economy right now is the politicians won't do what they're supposed to do. They have to start cutting big. If they don't cut big, then we are going to go right past recession, right into stagflation. Now, let's take a look at the stocks, the market. Now, if you look at a chart here, this is an interesting chart. New home prices. Look at this chart right here. The housing market is getting destroyed. Look at this. Look at this. New home prices are now lower than existing home prices. Do you realize that? Before, your pre-owned home or existing homes were always competing down the road with that new build-out of all new homes, right? Be 5 builders in there building new homes. And they'd use your house to sell a new home. They say, well, look at this house. Same square feet, brand new, everything's new, and it's 10-12% lower, and it's a brand new house. Why would you want that used house down the street? Well, now it's changed. Now it's changed. So now you can buy a builder home, brand new builder home, for less than what you would buy a pre-owned home or a pre-existing home. Why is that? Because they're not going to give up. Homeowners won't sell. They're not going to give up their mortgages. When you got 78% of all the mortgages in the United States below 5% interest, And even 55% below 4%, 23% below 3%, no one's selling. So that's causing a whole problem because remember, real estate is one of our biggest industries. Nobody's out there building right now. Who's going to build houses? New builders aren't building houses. They're not going to build. Why would they? Now, going back to gold, and that's why you got to stay with gold because gold's just going to keep going up and up and up. Since 2008, gold's up 464%. Since 2008. Since 2020, just in 5 years, our gold prices have gone up 154%. You got to stay with the gold. And these stocks, like NVIDIA and all these other stocks, the 5 stocks I just gave you at the opening, these stocks are, again, the smart money has been bailing out. And who's been buying all of that stock? FOMOs and tourist investors who don't know what they're doing. They don't even know. I mean, they have no idea what even volume is. They never even look at the volume bar. So this is one, that's housing. So that's a real major problem. We don't have inventory, and new builders aren't going to build new inventory, so prices are just going to keep going up. And here you are again, mortgage refinance. I just gave you those numbers. You can't get your house refinanced. So look at this chart here. Look at bankruptcies, filings by year. Look how they're going up, not down. So why is she lying and telling us, oh, the consumer's fine? Look at this chart. Does that look like it's fine? They lie. So let's take a look at the other day, I took my members and I said, let's go through the market and let's scope it down and let's take the stocks in each sector that are really doing well. So take all these sectors, there's only a handful of stocks that were doing well. I mean, it was crazy. So we had, for example, just to give you an idea, we scoped down these stocks, and just a handful were doing well. Let me put them up for you. So if you take the semiconductor stocks, okay, which mostly is AI, only 2 stocks you can buy. And I won't even buy them right now. And the biggest problem is all these people are jumping and buying these stocks that are in downtrends. I mean, people are buying MU right now. And that's insane because the trend's going down. You never buy a stock. Just because the stock is going up, the candlesticks are going up, that's where you get sucked in. If the trend is going down and your candlestick's going up and everybody's telling you to buy, run like hell.
1 minute.
You can see this chart right here. You got to wait till it crosses over. If you look at SMH, the ETF for semis, look at this. The stock's going up, but look at the trends going down. That means everybody who bought the semiconductors between November 21 and today are going to lose money because that's going to collapse. It's going to collapse. Same again. If you look at any of these stocks, like AMD, if you bought AMD, let's say you bought AMD on November 25th, you're going to lose money. It's time to get out because look how your stock is going up, but the trend is going down. Now, what is trend? Trend tells you where's your direction of the money. Whose money? The big money, the institutional money. They're pulling their money out. Well, why is the stock going up? Because you got tourist investors who don't know anything. They have no idea what they're doing. They'll hear somebody on TV talk about a hot stock, they'll write the name down, they go buy it. Never, I mean, all these tech stocks people are buying, they're going to get killed.
10, 9,
they're going to get killed.
8,
You got to wait for these stocks for the trend
5,
to turn.
4,
For example, just look at Lilly.
2,
That's what you're looking for. See that? Okay, remember, we're going to be fine because we know how to short and go long.
You have been listening to Phil's Gang with your host, Phil Grande, on the Off the Wall Street Radio Network. Off the Wall Street Radio Network. Remember to visit Phil's website at philsgang.com. That's philsgang.com. Or call the office, 877-600-4264. That's 877-600-4264.